Hey, welcome to Barefoot Autism Warriors. I'm Ninka, and in the following recording, I'm sharing a secret Zoom call that I did with a group of autism moms because I feel that what we shared is relevant to you if you're an autism mom. So if you are dealing with symptoms like nonverbal autism, eloping, scripting, tantrums, regression, aggression, panic attacks, rigidity, stimming, and you think you need to find a practitioner, the right test, the right answers in other moms' experience, or in any sort of protocol or extreme diet to remove the symptom, this recording, this coaching call will reveal to you that that's how the allopathic world thinks about this. This is how the alternative therapists, they think about this. But there's a massive problem with that approach. And that problem is if you remove the symptom, you remove the clue. And by the clue, I mean that behind every symptom that your child is currently experiencing, there's a clue which is also the key to real, true healing. So these clues, they come in 4 different categories. There's an emotional clue. There's a spiritual, supernatural clue that is related to God's plan for you and this child. There's a biological clue, there's a biochemical, biomedical clue. And all of these clues, and the emotional clue as well, are the reasons why you won't see any lasting change if you focus on removing the symptoms, because spiritually, emotionally, biologically, and biochemically, it does not make sense to remove the clue that is actually your opportunity to create real change, to find your life purpose through autism recovery turnaround processes, and become the strongest, healthiest, more mature and peaceful version of yourself. Because what we all want is to get our children to the best level of life quality, to as much independence as possible. And then as autism moms with a child who's struggling a lot, we also want our lives back and peace and save our relationships and our families. So that's what this coaching call is all about, and I really hope you'll enjoy it. And stay to the end if you want more of this type of coaching, because I'll share with you how you can get access to that. Enjoy. So just before we get started, I just wanted to say that this monthly call, it's a family gathering. It's where we get together and where you get to show up. And if you have issues, if you have struggles, if you have jobs you need to get done to get to more independence, overcome picky eating, overcome symptoms, get your child to the best possible outcome. If you have challenges with your own physical health, because it's all linked, this is where you come on the call and you ask the question, and then you get support in breaking through that turnaround blocker. And so we have these calls once per month as a complimentary coaching add-on to going through the Autism Turnaround Course. And I know that we have some guests today because I invited moms who are curious about how do we work through this turnaround process in this community. And so welcome to those of you who are here just to say hi today. And I would really love if you would tell me in the chat, are you a guest? And if not, what modules or lessons are you currently working your way through? And if you have any struggles, just let me know in the chat as well. So let me know if you're a guest, if you're completely new, or if you're not new, what modules in the mindset course and in the different phases are you currently working through? So we have some great questions today and some case stories that we're going to go through that I think will be useful for everybody, because sometimes we think that coming into the process, the autism turnaround process, when we have a clear pathway, which this is the clear pathway, by the way, this is the success path. And it is inside the course, and I really encourage you to always have a printed version of it, because in this you will always be able to see the structure of what we are going through as we pass through the 5 phases. You know that the 5 underlying messages behind any symptom is what we are covering in each phase. And so you can see the pathway, you'll see what's going on in those different phases that will unscramble the message. Number 1, mindset course. Number 2, body clocks and nature deficiency. Number 3, emotional and physical healing needed, and so on and so on. But you'll also be able to see what steps and action plans do I need to tick in order for me to move on to the next phase. And that's because there will be some milestones and characteristics that will define whether or not you are still in trauma response, you are still in your stress types, crisis response, or whether you have enough green flags compared to red flags to move on to the next phase. Because if we skip the foundation, and if we skip the foundational level or any step inside the course, we will have a tough time getting to the next station. So this journey is like going on the craziest trip you've ever done. And I know we have all the suitcases, we have all the tools, we have the maps, we know where we're going, but we don't yet know the language. And we cannot see the final destination. We know where we want to get with our children, but we cannot envision and we cannot imagine how good it can get when we are in the dark phases of autism, or if we're in stress type meltdown, or if our metabolism is broken, or if our brain is not allowing change because we're in stress, fight, and flight. So what we're doing as we move through these phases is that we are actually learning the language of healing our child. We're learning the language of the turnaround process. And that language, we pick up more grammar, more skills, more depth in understanding as we move through these different phases. And so as we move through these phases, not only will we feel stronger, we will get more healthy, we will be more mature, we will have much more clarity as we move through these phases. But that is also, in that process, is also when our children continuously start to develop skills and release symptoms, and peace is restored in the family. But if we think that when we're in the mindset phase, or if we are in phase 1, and we think that we are going to be able to fully comprehend what this child is here to teach us, what this child wants me to change, why this symptom is coming up, why I self-sabotage when I really want this change happening for my child, we are not going to understand big picture when we're inside the frame. And I would say we're pretty much inside the frame until we are well into phase 3. And as you can see, phase 3 has 4 different healing modules. And I would say it will take us about 4 months to go through those together, to go to that deep, deep level where the confusion is gone, and you know how to interpret symptoms, and you know how to adjust nutrition and lifestyle and diet accordingly. But I'll pull that all together today. I'm going to try and collect all the pieces of the healing puzzle for you, so that you have an overview wherever you are in this journey, and so that you know, why is it that symptoms are happening? Why is it that we don't see results often in the community? What will it take for me to see significant results? And I'm not talking about just some improvement and then we're back to scratch 6 months later. It's the reason why that happens. I'm talking about lasting, lifelong changes, like the changes you can go and check out in the case studies, barefootautismwarriors.com. It's constantly being updated, but there's a lot of new cases there.
and the same type of cases that happened with my son, where language comes back, social interaction, empathy, normality, because, you know, we want our children to be independent. We want them to be able to speak, eat healthy foods, have friends, have a job in the future. And so the more we can build foundation and remove all these triggers and symptoms so that their brain can develop in a natural way, the more we can do that now, the less they have to catch up later on. Because my son is 23 now, and he's living a completely neurotypical life. And yet he lost probably around 3 to 4 years of development. So that's something that we need to pick up and redevelop, because that's a hole, that's a gap, that even though we remove the symptoms, we still need to deal with that gap. And the sooner we start and the more dedicated we are to the process now and in the early years, or whenever you start this process, the less gaps you will have to deal with long term. Does that make sense? I know what it feels like to live in a living nightmare where your child is screaming, you have no sleep, your child is aggressive, not communicating with you, doesn't want to eat normal, regular food, and it feels like everything is a battle, and it is a battle. And I want you to recognize and acknowledge that your body and your soul and your brain, your hormones, your immune system, your guts, everything is under massive pressure. And that's why for you to also have to take on understanding how to save your child on top of that, it's an insane job. And that's why I know that you've been chosen for it, and you probably feel that too. You know, that's what it moves me deeply, because it took me so long to understand that, hey, these children are sent to us because we have been given a sacred assignment to go through a grueling process of autism, but also a beautiful, sacred, supernatural healing process that's going to be so beyond our mental and logical understanding that it will leave everyone around us flabbergasted and curious and full of hope, because we're doing what nobody else out there in the functional medicine community, in the biomedical community, in the autism diet community, or in allopathic medicine are able to do. And that's because we have a sacred assignment. These children are telling us exactly what's going on in the world, but also in our lives and in the way that we live and walk through life, that is not in integrity, not feasible, not sustainable for the planet, for our bodies, for our mental health, for our soul, and for our relationship, for our families, for our communities. We cannot keep stressing, abusing our bodies, abusing the land, exposing ourselves and our children to toxins and stress and noise pollution and toxins, and detach from our own body and think that that's going to work out well when our child is actually integrated into our body, and everything that goes on inside of us, the child is experiencing. So before we dive into these incredibly exciting case stories, I just want to see from you what's going on in your life. And new members of the family, just want to welcome you so much. So we have Amanda as a guest today. So honored to have you, Amanda. Thank you for taking time out of your day to be with us. And we just hope that we will be able to give you some hope and some insights as to how you can support your child going forward. Thank you so much. And then we have Cecilia, who's also a guest. So honored to have you. Thank you, love. Welcome, sister. So good to see your face. And Anne, I know, and Anne is one of my good old sisters. We've been together for a long time going through this process, and Anne is going through phase 1 for the second time, which is something I recommend. I recommend that we go through the phases more than once, because we constantly discover new levels. And by the way, I'm changing phase 3 because I've learned so much new stuff about the metabolism and how that is linked to autism and to our well-being, that I need to change that module as well. So it will be completely new. I think it will be by December, it's going to be completely ready. And Laura, you're also a guest. Thank you so much for being here. Completed the mindset course in the past and currently redoing the mindset course. Great. Because the mindset course in its old form is no longer, it doesn't count, because so much has changed since. And I have changed, and the way that I look at autism has changed, and the way that I take moms through the healing process has changed as well. And in the old days, I only taught the mindset course, and I had Dr. Shalene come in and teach separate courses on methylation and PANS and PANDAS and bio-individual nutrition and regression and all those things. And that's now included, as well as everything else that I've ever taught inside my memberships, now included in the course. And I'll show you by the end of this call. I'll just take you back in so that you can see what it looks like. But I have some input from Dr. Berenzi today to some of the case stories. And she will also be guest teaching in December, answering all the questions about phase 5 and the biomedical aspect of our children's recovery story. So thank you. And Sasha is also a guest. Welcome. LPH, which I don't know what that stands for, but it sounds amazing.
Also Laura, it's my last name.
Yay. Thank you for being here, Laura. We've got Rami, who's new, and I know you very well, Rami, who's new and in phase 1, Audra in phase 1, and Nika in phase 3. Love and relating. Amazing, Nika. Phase 1 for the second time, and Holly just started the course and honored to be part of, and excited for our changes and to learn. I'm so happy you're here, Holly. Already, look, here we are. Just getting ready to onboard that train. We've got our suitcases, our sisters as wing women, right? Ready to go to that destination. And I promise you, it's not going to be easy, but it's going to be crazy, and it's going to change everything in your life. And I'm here for it, and we're all here to witness it and be there for you. Whenever it gets challenging, that's what this sisterhood is for and all about. Is to offer that support, but also offer the insight when things get complicated and we don't understand what's going on with symptoms. So thank you. And Marika, also new. I know you very well as well, Marika. Phase 3, bringing my 14-year-old child home from boarding school at the end of November, ready to start this journey with her. Thank you for the support. I'm grateful, me too. So thank you all for contributing and letting us know where you're at. So we all have the same job that we need to get done. We all want our soul all longs for it, that our bodies long for it, that our wisdom, our inner knowledge longs for it, that space in the future that we don't yet know how to reach, but it's there waiting for us, where our children have more independence, are able to speak and communicate, where we know how to stop symptoms, regression, tantrums, picky eating, eloping, scripting, whatever symptom comes up, because every child will experience plateaus in development, every autistic child also in this community. We want to get to a place where we always know, okay, when this happens, I know what's been going on last week and the week before, and I know exactly what to do to adjust it. Instead of this complete confusion about what to eat, what to take, why did it happen, who can I talk to, who can help me, who can remove this, who can fix this. We also want our children to eat healthy, develop naturally, and get our own life and our own peace and our own relationships back. Because when we are dealing with autism, we are in a state of emergency. It's like being in a war zone 24/7 for many of us, at least. And we long to get to that place of peace if we're in the dark phase, and we don't know how to get there. So we think, especially in the beginning of the journey, we think, okay, I need to find the reason why this is happening to my child right now. I need to find the cause, cause. I've got a bit of an accent, so I'm hoping you understand what I mean. The root cause, I need to find that. I need to find the answer. I need to find the person, the pill, the practitioner, the potion, the diet that can help my child. And so this approach of looking at the child, looking at the symptom, and attempting to remove that symptom, that's the idea and the approach in allopathic medicine, in functional medicine, in ABA therapy, in biomedical approaches, and basically in naturopathic medicine as well. That's the approach that is out there. And so that's what we think we need to do. The big problem with that is that remove the symptom, you also then will remove the clue. You'll remove the message. And your child, no matter where you are, whether you're a guest here today, whether you are in phase 1, 2, 3, 4, or 5 for the first time or the second time, unless your child is functioning and you have restored peace and your child is developing and living a neurotypical life, that's such a weird expression. Just don't know what else to say, but a peaceful life, friends, working, driving a car, fulfilling their life purpose, contributing in the world, having friends and girlfriends or wives, and be able to have their own family. Unless we are there, we still have symptoms that are messages for us. And when we remove the symptoms, we remove the clue that is currently right there for us to understand what needs to change. And the clue falls under the following categories. There's a biological clue in the symptom that you're seeing. And that symptom is also what goes on in your body. There's a biological clue. There's an emotional clue. The child expresses something that has to do with an emotional dynamic that we need to address. There's a biomedical and biochemical clue that only you as a mother, not a practitioner, not a medical doctor, can learn to interpret, because these clues about the bio-individual nutrition honestly require that you're with that child all the time. The only ones that are with the child 24/7 are the parents. No one can take over that ability to monitor the biomedical and biochemical and biological clues. So if we remove that symptom, we also remove that clue. We don't want that. There's also a clue that some people don't want to hear about, some people are not ready to hear about, but will be later on in the process because it will be so obvious. That there's a supernatural clue. There's a higher level instruction for you about your life purpose and about what this child is here to change in the world and in your life and in your relationships and in your relationship with your body and with your self-parenting, the way that you relate to your body, to food and to eating and to walking through life. So the supernatural aspects will put you on your path of your life purpose. This child is here to get you back on track in every single way. And so because there are these clues, and it's like a treasure chest in front of us. If we remove those clues, supernatural, biological, emotional, biochemical, we will not see lasting results, because it's a mathematical equation that will not add up. And that is why if you go into all the diet autism mom communities, the medical medium communities, the TRS communities, the functional medicine communities, the essential oil communities, the CBD oil communities, the fecal transplant communities, whatever you choose, you will see that moms come and talk about symptoms coming back again and again and again and again. And that's because until we accept, take on, understand, and interpret these clues and accept them instead of wanting to remove them, the symptoms will have to come back again and again. Different types of symptoms, yes, maybe. And that's why it's so hard to link and understand, because we're thinking, well, I'm doing everything. I've removed gluten, dairy, we're doing sugar-free, we're grounding, we removed toxins, we've done this functional medicine practitioner, we've done Nemetech, we've done everything, and then still these symptoms come along. And that might just be because the emotional message and the supernatural message is not taken as seriously as a toxic overload or undermethylation or pyrrole disorder or neurological imbalances that causes seizures, but they are as important. So when we remove symptoms, we also remove our biggest opportunity to find our life purpose, to get stronger, to truly heal our children long-term and lasting and for life, to get stronger and healthier and more mature than we've ever been, and end the stress and the battle with symptoms and with food and with eating and with our role in this world. Why am I here and why is this happening to me? So what we really need to do to get there, wherever there is for you, is that we need to remove the obstacles that gives us that continuous ongoing development of change. So we continuously want an add-on of improvement in our children. We want to stop chasing solutions outside of the family. Basically, we will need some support, but we want to stop chasing the latest, the next shiny object, the latest diet, practitioner, answer, test, whatever it is, to find the answers. We want to end that stress around that. And then we want to have that clarity where we can always look at our child, take an inventory of what's going on all levels, and adjust lifestyle and diet and life according to the feedback that we are getting. And in order to do that, because there's a reason why people don't see lasting results, they don't see continuous change and less symptoms. They don't understand exactly why the child is regressing or having seizures or parasites or still are not speaking, or they don't know exactly what to do and what to feed the child and how to approach this. And in order to do that, we need to remove the blockers, the turnaround blockers that is standing between us and that roadmap and those tools that are accessible for us. And this is where all the work comes in, because we need to remove blocker number one, and that is neurological. When we're in stress, fight and flight, and our nervous system is all over the place, our immune system, our gut, our detoxification pathways, our heart rate, our breathing will be impaired by that stress. And when that happens, the brain will interpret any change as danger, and it will also never allow any change. You will also not be able to take in information and understand what's going on with your child. So we need to free up space in the brain. That's what we're doing in the brain primers in the first part of the course. The brain primers are introduced in the mindset course and continue in phase 1 and 2. And then I'm implementing a new program. It's a 30-day program that will rewire the connection between the brain and the body. Because there's a reason why your child is struggling that is based on the nervous system being completely stressed and dysregulated, but also the lack of ability to interpret the world. The reason why our children are spinning, the reason why they're not learning, the reason why they're not speaking, the reason why they don't have emotional control and they act rigidly is also not only, but it's also because they don't know how to visually interpret what they see and put it into concepts, because their peripheral vision and their ability to move the eyes quite physically, if you test your children's eyes, they won't be able to move smoothly when they look at letters on a piece of paper. And that's also because we're never outside. We're not looking at, our children don't grow up in nature, okay? So they don't look at birds at a distance. They don't shoot a bird and bring it back and crawl through the wilderness to rewire the cerebellum and look at things up close, insects, digging for things in the ground. And they don't balance, they don't spin, they don't crawl, they don't develop that inner ear, that cerebellum hardwiring of skills that can only happen when we stretch the brain by doing those strenuous tasks for the brain where we use our vision and we use our physical body to navigate in the world. So that is something that needs to be addressed. We need to address the brain and the vision and the auditory processing, because our body and brain are completely detached. And that's why for the children that they have the autistic symptoms, but it's also why we don't know when we are full. And that's why we keep on eating. When the body is full, we keep on eating, or we have hunger that is insatiable, yeah, where we binge on certain foods and then we restrict and we get extremely exhausted because our nervous system does not know how to navigate in the world, and it's based on stress, basically. Long story, but trying to distill it down to this point. Then we need to remove the blocker that is metabolic as well, where we are so stressed because of autism that our cortisol levels are already through the roof. When the cortisol levels are through the roof, the body does not feel safe. You cannot, because of insulin resistance, when you have a high level of cortisol, you're actually malnourished, whether you are overweight or underweight, whether you're always hungry, have sugar cravings, are losing your hair, feeling fatigued, depressed, anxious, mood swings, cellulite, autoimmune conditions, digestive issues, gut issues, all the things that we women deal with, hormonal issues, thyroid issues, they are all based on this hormonal imbalance that's caused by stress and that's caused by a broken metabolism for us as women, because we have been through the most excruciating war zone already, and most of us are still there. And so unless we fix our metabolism and calm down the nervous system, calm down the brain, it will not allow us to change. And we will not have the strength, the physical strength, the muscle tone, the nutrition that we need to have on board to feel safe enough for change to happen, and to be strong enough to move the needle and go from this very chaotic, stressful state of crisis that we are in with our children, to move into a safe zone where there's more peace and better habits, more healthy eating, and more clarity that requires that the nutrition can get into the cells, and that we know what to eat for our type, our body type, and what to eat at certain types of the day. And restricting, because what happens when these things stretches us beyond our capacity, because our children are sick and we are exhausted and we're broken and we are so tired, we don't even know how to survive. You know, I cannot even count the amount of times where I thought it would be easier if we all died at this point. I thought, can I walk out? Can I leave my family behind? Can I go hang myself, and will things be okay or better? And the only reason why I didn't do that is because I felt so guilty about leaving my sick child and my family behind with the grief of that. But that's how much I was under pressure with this. And so I know that's what you're going through. And when we are in that state, we need to understand that anything we add on, whether it is diets, restriction, skipping breakfast, fasting, or engaging into strenuous biomedical approaches where we're spending all our money and spending all our time on ABA and expensive tests and extremely restrictive diets, it will add on the stress load, which will then, in meta perspective, make our children worse, and it will make it harder for us to stay with them, because literally we are dying a little bit every day when we do this. We are burning our candle at both ends, and the telomeres on our DNA strands will get shorter and shorter every month when we do this. And so many autism moms end up collapsing when they are at the end of their 30s or in their 40s or in their early 50s, because there's nothing left. There's no testosterone, there's no estrogen, there's no progesterone, there's no thyroid hormone. It's flatlined because of stress. So we are the vehicle, we are the leaders of our children's recovery process. And if we keep giving more than we have, and if we are operating with a life and a body bank account where the numbers are red all over, we are not going to be there for our children later on. I had months where I couldn't even move. I couldn't talk to people. I couldn't speak. I couldn't watch TV. I couldn't work. We went into liquidation, my husband and I. The guy who collects money came knocking at the door to take our things, because I could not do anything. And that was another wake-up call for me that we can talk about on another occasion, because that's for another day. It's too long of a story. But we need to heal that by eating more, by eating 3 meals a day, by fixing our metabolism, by eating more carbs. Do not restrict carbs. Do not get into too much restriction and obsession around recovery protocols. And then the third turnaround blocker is our self-sabotage patterns. That's the emotional turnaround blocker, where the pain that we feel on the inside from things that we have been through in life, just like any other woman out there, we just have autism as well to deal with. But the pain that is waiting for us to get strong enough to go back and heal it is so scary for us. In my case, it was being abused by my grandfather, being abandoned by my mom when I was 7, growing up with an alcoholic stepfather who also was a psychopath, and he would call me the most horrific things. He would call me bitch, and he would do anything he could to get me out of the house. And so the act of moving forward into life, the conflicts in family and anything that had to do with relating and anger and mothering was all linked to loss and grief and trauma and survival. And so I lived my whole life in that survival zone. And that pain, you have similar pain points inside you that need you to come back and pick up that child within you through certain strategies. And until you're strong enough and peaceful enough in your nervous system and your metabolism is prepared for that, you will keep on creating pain on the outside. And we can use autism to do that, to distract ourselves from the pain on the inside that we're not ready to heal or ready to face, which means we will sabotage any diet, we will sabotage any autism protocol, we will sabotage going through the turnaround course if we don't address the hidden self-sabotage patterns within us. And there are two different types of people, those who self-sabotage and those who are in denial about their self-sabotage. So we all do it. And in the course, we use stress type healing and self-sabotage healing to heal our children and ourselves at the same time. So we deal with it when it comes to food, we deal with it when it comes to relationships, we deal with it when it comes to eating, we deal with it when it comes to parenting and self-parenting. Because if we don't address our wounds and our blind spots and our nervous system and our PTSD brain, it's like having these emotional, neurological, and soul-based naysayers. They're going to do everything they can subconsciously to prevent change, because they need you to stay in the familiar, because change is yet another danger, that yet another stress factor. It's not going to happen because it's a biological survival instinct. That is why, and it will look like I don't have time. It will look like, well, I just didn't find the right solution, or it will look like it's everybody else's fault or the wrong practitioner, whatever it is, because the more intelligent you are, the more sophisticated these self-sabotage patterns will be. So that's something we need to address. And we then, now when I want to go through the case studies, because then I can better explain. So yeah, that's fine. How do we do that? Sounds great. Please show me the plan, because I can't take in more information or more complication or things that I need to do on top of what I'm already doing. I hear you, I know. So let's take the case stories and let's talk about what that looks like. So I have a mom, she used to be in the old version of my course before I changed everything and removed the more new agey aspects that I felt were pulling us down, were hidden dark matrices. I'm happy to talk about that later on, but I have plenty of podcasts that go into depth about this. It's a long one, and it's coming up in my next newsletter. I'm going to collect all the podcasts and an update for that. But she's been in my old version of the course and membership. And she was desperate. She reached out and she was desperate. And she says, I don't know where else to turn. My son started meltdowns a couple of weeks ago. He's always been sweet and happy, and he's had some meltdowns and some tantrums and regressions, but we've always been able to guide him out of it. And this is recent. She hasn't been in the course for probably at least a year. So what happens if we don't fully heal our self-sabotage patterns? We will start to drift off and hide and abandon even the healing process inside the Autism Turnaround Course. That's why it's so important to stick to the lessons and those healing modalities. But listen what's going on here. She says, the doctor has told us to wean him off glutathione and start him on CBD oil, increasing the dose of the CBD oil, in order to be able to increase folinic acid as well. No change in diet. And these tantrums are just getting more and more insane. And she's just desperate. She says the doctor suggests that diflucan, it's an antifungal medicine. I don't know how you pronounce it in English, but we have it in all countries. It's an antifungal, anti-candida treatment. And she says, what am I going to do? And what is happening here? It's a lot of different things. First of all, with these children, it's never a one course, one solution kind of thing. So it always falls under the 5 categories, which we are working our way through if we diligently press play and go through all the lessons inside phase 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5, which I will demonstrate in case 2 and 3 in 1 second. You will understand that it always has an aspect from each phase. There are different courses from each phase for each child that are completely unique to that child and no one else. So for example, for this child, there's a high likelihood. So for example, CBD oil changes the endocannabinoid system. And for some children, that's great. And for some children, it's absolutely horrific. Removing glutathione with a child that possibly has issues with an enzyme called PST, which is, it's called phenylsulfotransferase or something like that, which is an enzyme that detoxifies hormones, toxic molecules, phenols, amines, which are known tantrum triggers, by the way, yeast and other fungi, food dyes and other chemicals. Removing glutathione with a child that's got enzyme production issues and do not have sufficient levels and abilities to produce this enzyme will create those tantrums and regression symptoms. So that's one aspect. And that's just one tiny bit of information that moms learn in phase 5 with Dr. Berenti, where she teaches every mom why. So with this doctor, if the doctor puts this child on an antifungal medication, what will happen is that there's a knock-on effect. It will work immediately, and then down the line, 6 to 12 months down the line, it will cause more symptoms and more problems, because the knock-on effects of what works initially often causes more problems down the line, because you don't just kill the bad fungi, you kill the good ones too. And that's a huge problem with this kill, bind, sweat, eradicate approach in the biomedical field. Folinic acid, any form of folate, whether it's methylfolate, folinic acid, or folic acid, for every child and every mom in this community, it will be super risky, because we are all dealing with undermethylation, which means that we are folate intolerant, and the risk of exacerbating any symptom from eating disorders, OCD to ADHD to regression, tantrums, nonverbal autism, eloping, scripting, all the worst symptoms are linked to undermethylation, where we don't produce the enzymes we need to produce, the hormones we need to be balancing out, and the neurotransmitters that will create dopamine and serotonin. Not going to happen. And adding folate into the mix in any way, shape, or form will increase that problem because it drains the nucleus, the cell at nucleus level, from folate. When you're donating it on the outside, you're draining it on the inside of the cell. So these are the things that when you go into the biomedical field, or you go into mom groups, wherever you go, or into allopathic approaches, there are no experts or specialists out there, in my experience, and I've been doing this for 16 years now, that will have that full picture. They just don't. Because, and I think it's because, so Dr. Berenti, who teaches phase 5 inside the course, and she comes on and answers questions every once in a while as well, in December next time. I think you need to have had a child with autism to be motivated to go into the depth that is needed. It's a forensic examination that you need to go through for your child. And we spend around 4 to 5 months inside of phase 5 teaching you how to do that. Why is it as important to stop a supplement as it is to begin taking it? What tests are worth your time and money? What tests are absolutely worthless? What's your child's tantrum triggers? What's your child's reason for plateauing in development? What are the reasons for tantrums and regressions and symptoms? And I'm just showing you, this is just one of the handouts because we have so many, just in phase 5, this is the last of all the modules in there. Here's an overview. Most of you have not come to phase 5 yet. An overview of possible reasons why your child might be regressing and how to go through an examination phase to determine, okay, what is my child's unique triggers? And what can I do right now naturally to support my child's system to deal with this? Now, here's the tricky part. In order for us to get there, which is where everyone wants to get to, we need to become super sophisticated experts in interpreting, connecting with, respecting, understanding our own amazing body. Interpreting every little single mood swing, every bump and lump, every smell, every sudden weight gain or sudden pangs of hunger or sleep issues, hormonal issues. We need to become so in tune with what it feels like to be well nourished, have balanced hormones, a balanced metabolism, balanced mitochondria, and a healthy gut, and feeding the microbiome, and be strong, have strong muscles, and not fluctuate in weight and mood and sleep and appetite and energy levels, for us to have any chance of being able to do that for our children. So that's what this mom, what she needs to do is to go through that process again. And we do that by first, because the second case is nonverbal autism. It's a question I get about 10 different versions of it every time we have a call. What do I do about the fact that my child is not speaking? And then picky eating. And then I have a question from a mom who is gaining weight, yo-yo dieting, restricting her foods and carbs, and then she's fasting or eating less to deal with it, or exercising more to deal with it, and she just feels like she's broken. I can list the symptoms of this, basically all the cortisol types that come to the community, and the thyroid types. And for those, unless they fix their body and their relationship with food and reconnect to their body and nature, they will not be able to understand their body. They will not be able to regulate their nervous system. They will not be able to regulate their heart rate and their breathing pattern. That in turn will affect the child. It will affect the child's immune system because it affects ours. It will affect the child's detoxification pathways because that stress affects our detoxification pathways, and they mimic us. They mimic our heart rate, our breathing, everything. And they won't be able to have a strong immune system. They won't be able to process foods because we can't when we are in that state. So if you have insomnia, hypoglycemia, low blood sugar, depression, hair loss, irritability, inability to concentrate, stress intolerance, tired in the morning, tired between 3 and 5 in the afternoon, coffee needed to get going in the morning, caffeine intolerance and jitters, cravings for fatty and salty food, dry skin, low libido, low thyroid, exercise intolerance, meaning you don't feel charged when you're exercising, you feel drained afterwards. Loss of muscle tissue, abdominal fat, sensitivities, temperature intolerance, loss of muscle tissue, infertility, PMS, painful cramps, constipation, diarrhea, joint and muscle pain, cold hands and feet, stomach pain or indigestion, dizziness, ringing in the ear, numbness and tingling, mouth sores, shortness of breath, dark under the eyes, dizzy when you stand up, and reoccurring yeast infections. If this is you, we need to start with you, and you go first, the child go further, because the child will not accept any destruction of your health, any mistreatment of your body, and any bad parenting on your end when it comes to how you're parenting yourself and your inner child. The child will not have it, because the child is depending on you being a good parent and taking leadership, and that leadership is learned by lived experience. Does that make sense? So unless we live this, unless we breathe this, unless we shop it and cook it and wake up in this and practice it over and over again, and for most of us it's freaking hard, because most of us have had shitty role models when it comes to that. You know, most of us are brought up by children, you know, pretending to be adults, and who has taught us to fully be connected to the body and interpret body language? Who's taught us how important it is to be exposed to the sun in the morning? Who told us that every organ has a clock that is depending on us being connected to nature, and the microbiome in nature and the bacteria in nature, that we need that for our gut to function? Who's told us that if we say yes when we mean no, if we please everybody else, if we let people step over our boundaries and we stay up late and we eat shitty foods, and we just push our body with coffee and stimulants and alcohol and overworking and overperforming because we don't feel worthy enough to be here. We feel like we have to prove our worth through doing something. Who told us how damaging that is to ourselves, our children, and actually to the way that we walk through life? Nobody. Well, not in my case. Nobody told me that. So for picky eating, for binge eating, for stress, and for all those symptoms that I listed, and for nonverbal autism, the walk through healing is a 5-phase process. And it starts with the mindset. It starts with understanding this is a gift. This is your second chance. This is you being woken up to what needs to change in your life. This is shaping your character. It is not a mistake. It's not someone else's fault. It's something you've been chosen for. And therefore, trying to remove all the wake-up calls or going to someone else for the solution will never work, because this is a sacred assignment. So the mindset is all about being curious all the time. What is it that this child is trying to teach me? About, I'm having a freaking tantrum about what's going on in my life and in the world, and the noise and the food and the lack of parenting or the emotional environment in the family, or my mom's lack of respect for herself. What is my child expressing that I'm suppressing? So that's one thing. We need to really shift our mindset. The focus needs to go completely back on us and away from the symptoms, away from the child, for at least 3 to 4 months. Number 2, nature deficiency is always a part of the problem, whether it's picky eating, thyroid issues, depression, overeating, nonverbal autism, body clocks, hydration, timing, whether or not we live in sync and harmony with the rhythms and cycles of nature will have a huge impact on all hormonal functions, on enzyme production, on gut health, on behavior, on development, stress levels, sleep, learning abilities to build and grow brains and bones is depending on that. And that's why, for me, for example, I had to realize, okay, I am not going to be able to heal my son in the middle of this huge, massive city that I'm living in. I just knew it, my soul knew it, and I had no idea how I was going to provide for my family, and I had no backup plan other than I knew I need to get this out of here now. And so we are asked to do big things and make big changes, not necessarily now, but we have to be open to the fact that it's a supernatural journey. So the how is going to be shown to us when we faithfully surrender into, well, this is actually something we are being directed to take seriously. So openness towards nature deficiency being a massive, and I'm talking, this is in order of importance for recovering children and ourselves. Number one is the way we look at it. Are we walking in integrity or not? Are we curious? Are we focusing on ourselves or the child? Are we trying to remove the symptoms? That number one is the mindset and the approach. Number two is nature deficiency. That's the second most important blocker for recovery. We cannot heal children indoors. We cannot heal children without nature. Whether you have to go to a park, whether you have to go camping more often, even 2 days camping in nature makes a massive difference for these children. Massive, massive change in symptoms. Number three is the emotional and physical healing needed, which we talked about. If we don't heal our nervous system, our metabolic dysfunction, and if we don't heal our own body and our relationship with food and self-parenting, we can only heal our children to the level that we have healed ourselves. We can only understand the children to the level that we have learned to understand ourselves. We can only unscramble and adjust the lifestyle and diet for the children to the extent that we have learned by lived experience to do that for ourselves. That's why for me to walk moms through that, it takes about 3 to 4 months. And that is why I'm changing phase 5. I'm changing the intuitive eating module because I can see that it's much more complicated than that. And so we're teaching that in the mastermind right now, and I'm implementing what we are learning and experimenting with that in that mastermind coaching group into phase 3. So don't worry about phase 3 for now, because it's going to be much more comprehensive, and it's going to contain that brain body reset 30-day program as well. Because if our body is not safe and it cannot interpret what's going on, it's really going to be so hard to recover our children. Number 4 is the environment. We cannot heal in the same environment that got us sick. And that is also really important to understand, that it counts for the emotional environment too. If we have a stressful relationship with food, if we have high expectations at the dinner table, or if we are afraid that our children won't eat anything, if we remove the 2 or 3 things they want to eat, and we just have all this tension around that, that's going to cause a lot of problems. We have to, and this is why picky eating, if we ever hear ourselves say, oh, my child only want to eat pretzels and nuggets. I said that because my child only did want to eat nuggets and peanut butter. We have got to ask ourselves, when did we become so attached from our own body and from our values and from our walk through life in integrity, that the responsibility for what's being bought and cooked in this house is on a child with autism? So the children will spot our weak links and weak spots and blind spots. And if we don't take leadership and we set those boundaries, we get rid of the things that are not making them grow and are not nourishing to them. Cold cut, clean cut, get rid of it and start over. They will take over because they will feel unsafe in our leadership, and they will protest and they will not eat. They might not eat for a couple of days, but they will eventually, when they acknowledge and notice, okay, this is what's being served. It took my child about 3 days. We're dealing with picky eating as well inside the course, but picky eating is just a symptom. It's not natural, but it's also based on all the different 5 underlying messages that I just mentioned. So number 4 was environment, and number 5 is bio-individual nutrition. We need to understand methylation. We need to understand the complexity of gut healing and bio-individual nutrition, because our children's needs for nutrition change all the time. So if we're not tuned into what can I read from my own body's feedback to what I'm feeding it and adjust from day to day and month to month, it's really hard to do it for the children. But we are not supposed to eat the same thing all over again. And our nutritional needs change over time. They change when there are growth spurts. They change with hormonal changes. And so we need to be able to determine, okay, we need more fats on board, and we need this type of fats, not this type of fats at the moment. These sources of proteins and amino acids. We need these starchy veggies and blueberries today and strawberries tomorrow. We need to be able to determine what healthy looks like. And children will intuitively, instinctively pick whatever their gut needs, depending on their nutritional levels, inflammation, whether there's parasites or not. I have some incredible examples of that inside the community where mom had been working through all this, and her child would go out and pick certain bitter herbs in nature, eat them, and go and eat clay, and the next day just purge out parasites. So this is what animals do in nature, and this is what we are designed to do. We are actually designed to pick exactly what we need to balance our nutrient levels, to get rid of parasites, to reduce inflammation, because that's what sheep does and goats do. And we think that we are less sophisticated than them. It's been studied and observed in animal behaviors and books. And it's just so fascinating how far we have strayed from our natural way of eating, right? So that's in phase 5. That's where we learn about that, and methylation and pans and pandas and yeast and infections and stealth infections, and how to adjust diet, nutrition, supplements, and even add on tests if it's necessary, but based on your child's unique triggers and how you read and interpret the symptoms that's coming from your child. So that's why it's not just something where if people ask, well, here's one symptom, what do I take and what do I get rid of to get rid of the symptom? I have to say, well, do you have 12 months? Because I sure can support you in going through that process. But it's not a quick fix. It's not easy. It requires dedication, and it requires us to learn that this is how we live our lives. And it's a language we practice. It's values that we practice. It is how we parent ourselves and our children. That's what it's all about. And we then have a framework that we know we need to get through all these phases. And by the end of it, this is where you see the moms that are on the webpage barefootautismwarriors.com under case stories. They've been through this, and honestly, most of them they've been doing this for 2 years. And that does not tempt many people. That's why we're not a lot of people here in this community, because most people would rather keep on looking for that pill or that potion or that lotion or that practitioner, because it feels overwhelming. But on the other hand, if we look 10 years or 5 years into the future, that investment is so well spent. Your time and your study, because all you actually need to do is to walk through these lessons, print the PDFs, complete your journal, do the brain primers, and show up for the calls if you get stuck and if you need help and if you need to ask questions. And that's why I want to just see if you have any questions now. I want to help you through those. So someone's asking what CBD oil. That's cannabis oil. CBD oil. Any other questions? Just give me a hand or show me or write in the chat. We got someone coming in now as well. Anne, let me hear. You need to unmute yourself first.
I actually do not have a question, but I know that I read that Gro had one in the Telegram, and also Johanna. So if you want it, I can read it up.
Yeah. Yes.
So Johanna says, I'm not able to make today. I don't have a question as such, more a reflection to glean some input on. It is to do with leadership and finding one's own values. So, for instance, I found how to encourage and lead my son to start grounding every day. He's bare feet always, and always has been inside, and was more easily so when he was younger outside too. He is now 12. He does not enjoy being barefoot outside because of getting his feet dirty or because of stepping on thorns, worms, chicken poo, etc. I have been outside pretty much a lot of the time barefoot in our garden and if we are camping. And if we are out somewhere in nature or park, I always take my shoes off. So, more recently, we made a game and he was doing between 1 and 5 minutes per day, barefoot. Then he said, well, Mom, the thing is that you really enjoy going barefoot and I don't. I don't like getting my feet dirty or the feeling in my sleeping bag of my feet if they get earth dust. I said, we can wash your feet. We are also camping at the moment. Also, I tell him that sometimes at the beginning when we started doing more barefoot, and especially if it's raining, I didn't want to do it, and then I gave it a try and found out it was fun. He says, Mom, I'm saying no. It is extremely amateur on his side. If I push for further, things flip into not being in integrity with arguing, etc. Oh, it's a long.
I did see that one actually, and I didn't see a question in it, and so I didn't bring it on.
Okay.
Because it was more reflection than an actual question, as far as I could see. With Gro, I know that she has had some challenges. The more self-care she says that she's doing, the more she gets attacked at night by negative thoughts and worthlessness. Was that the one?
Let me see. Yeah, just a minute. Questions. I'm trying to leave it. It's about sleep, when getting to sleep, when eating the latest meal. Should I read it?
Yeah. Is it a long?
It is pretty long, yes. After reading the circadian code, I've been trying to leave a large time gap between dinner and breakfast. and
Yeah.
I haven't eaten after 6 or 7 p.m. Now, after watching you 3-part workshops, I understand that this doesn't apply to autism moms. This confuses me a bit, though, as eating later will have me eating close to bedtime, unless, of course, I get up early to eat, which at the moment seems unrealistic to me. Is it better to eat close to bedtime rather than leave a time gap larger than 12 hours? She continues, yeah.
Yeah, and that's the interesting thing about moving back into, hey, who do we actually ask that question? And how do we find those answers? Because the only way to do that is to try both. So when we have the journal and when we start observing what does my body do when I eat late at night? And what does my body do when I maybe eat something light before sleep? Because some bodies need a little meal later than 5 o'clock. Most bodies do well with a break between at least 5 o'clock and breakfast, because we then give the body time to get rid of toxins, flush out the brain, activate thyroid hormone. All the procedures that's going on in the body happens from 10:30 and onwards. And if there's a lot of food hanging around in the system, blood sugar and hormones and so many other aspects are affected, so that the body cannot do what it's supposed to do at night. So we are meant to stop moving around and eating when the sun sets. So because we don't live in nature, that's kind of hard to navigate from. So for most people, giving the body a break from around 5 o'clock and then until the morning, that will work. But for some people, that is just not a good idea, because the body is under so much stress that it actually needs a little meal to produce serotonin and actually calm down and have a nice sleep. And for those, and some of the children too, who's got a really unstable blood sugar level, for some of those, it can be a good idea to have a smoothie before bedtime, right? So that's something I did with Bertram in the beginning. He doesn't thrive on it now, but there was a time where he needed that to have a good night's sleep. So what we do then is we take one day where we go down the late meal route, and then one day where we skip that meal, and then we take inventory. We notice, what's my energy levels like? Am I craving more, eating more? What's my poop like? Do I feel well rested? Those kind of things. So we ask the body, because we have been doing all these diets and asked all these fitness experts and all these influencers and other moms, what should I eat? What should I do? How should I exercise? That we don't trust the body to tell us, but it's really good at creating balance. Thank you.
There is several questions in it also. Do you want me to go?
No, thank you. No.
Okay.
No, the ones that I've left out, I'm normally answering them directly inside the Telegram group, because they don't make sense on a broad spectrum.
Okay.
Was that from Gro as well, or?
That was from Gro, the latest.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. So whenever there's a question that I feel is relevant to everybody, I'll normally do it as a case study. And if there are some cases where I know it's super specific to that person, I'll answer that person personally inside the Telegram group, either with an audio message or a written message. Thank you. All right, let's see. Any other questions? Bo is 2 years and 8 months. She's made loads of progress with us, and the people who have her the diagnosis want to start her in school early, a couple of days a week, to get her on track. Do you think they will mask symptoms, or could this be good for her socially? And what do you think about grounding in the winter? So mainstream school, it really depends on the child's symptom level and stress levels, because if we have a physical crisis, we cannot really expect them to also deal with having to learn and take in information. So if you have a stomach flu and you have a heavy headache and you feel nauseous, do you feel that you can go and learn? Probably not. And it's the same thing with these children. They need to hardwire skills. They need to redevelop the cerebellum in nature with physical exercises. They need to heal their nervous system. They need to calm down the inflammation if that's a high level situation. So if there's a lot of behavioral issues, if there are physical issues as well, I would rather see that child recover physically and biochemically for at least a year before going into any learning situation, because it's just such a defeat for them. They are not able to take in that information and turn it into concepts and have a good experience in school. So that's what I did for my child, is that I pulled him out for 1 year, and I had an agreement with the teachers, which I can see now was pretty unique, but that I did not have any ambitions for him other than just get him well at home. And they gave me pretty much free space to do that. And within a year, he was actually ready to go into school and make friends and start learning. So depending on where the child is at. And then grounding in the winter is really easy because there are so many grounding shoes and grounding straps and grounding maps that you can use. You can actually just go to barefootautismwarriors.com and click free guides, and there's a grounding guide there that you can use to find those links. So yeah, I think grounding is, we are designed to walk on earth and sleep on earth, and that's something that's really hard for us to live without, because we cannot dump static electricity. We need that in order to regulate the body. We need that for our immune system. We need it for our mitochondria. We need it to downregulate an overactive immune system and inflammation. And mentally and emotionally, children need grounding as well in nature. So being outside is such a key part in the healing protocol. Yeah, I think that was it. And so I love this so much, the way that, I don't know if you can see how moms stick up for each other, and if they think, hey, are you actually gonna answer my sister's question, because I noticed this in the Telegram group, that's how sisters in this community stick up for each other, so that no one's left behind, no one gets to hide, or no one's ignored, and we all take part in lifting each other. And that's what these calls are for, but it's also what the Telegram group is for, as you work through those modules and lessons. Doing it on your own increases procrastination levels, and self-sabotage patterns when they are unconscious can get out of hand. And for thyroid types particularly, if they don't complete and finish things within 3 to 4 weeks, they tend to hardwire that pattern within them where they're abandoning themselves, and things pile up and projects pile up. And for them, in order to heal their hormonal stress, they need accountability, and they need someone to do it with them. So I'm not doing it for anybody, but I'm doing it with people. So that's what the Telegram and the Zoom calls are for, as you work through the lessons. And that can take anything, depending on how quick you are and how dedicated you are, it can take anything from 8 months to 2 years. So I just want to thank you so much for showing up. Just want to make sure. Oh, Holly, you got a question. Do you think we can help development delay, learning difficulties, etc., We have already helped my girl so much, and I have so much promise for her now. And I've started this course. However, academic learning is way behind and shows clear signs of difficulties with learning new things. Yes, so for learning and behavior, all the 5 phases are important, but particularly the physical stimulation that will stimulate the cerebellum to create those skills are really important. And that's why I wanted to add in that 30-day program you can do with your child as well, where I'm using what I did for my child, which had its weaknesses because it didn't include the inner ear stimulation that's needed for the brain to hardwire skills, to create more gray matter, to create more stem cells. It's so fascinating that we can do that. But then the things that we're doing in the brain primers, which is for the moms in the mindset course, and what I've learned in my education in interpreting the importance of the brain-body connection, which includes visual and auditory and vagus nerve stimulation and breathing and sensory stimulation. Because even, did you know that, for example, the reason why some children are picky eaters, or the reason why they don't want to eat anything, is because they are not used to stimulation via the tongue and teeth. And we can rewire that, because many of our kids have this very passive facial expression, and they have lost months or weeks in their brain development. And so we can retrain that. And there are so many beautiful exercises that will take all of those aspects into consideration. Cerebellum stimulation, inner ear stimulation, stretching the brain to the max so it creates new pathways and stem cells and gray matter, all combined together. These are the types of training components that took my child from not being able to speak English, doing really poorly in school, having very few social skills, no humor really, and super limited in his cognitive skills, to driving, learning English, going to college in England from not being able to speak 2 words of English, completing his education at the same level as kids his age, taking his driving license, having a super sophisticated humor and ability to emotionally analyze me and his dad's parenting skills. So it's that depth of intelligence and capacity that the physical stimulation of the brain can actually can give us. So we are focusing a lot on that. Just wanted you to know, Holly. So the brain can be rewired and redeveloped at any age. Right, thank you so much. So excited. I'm so blessed to be with you. And I feel so blessed to have had this moment of your life with you. Whether you are going to take this into your own life and implement this on your own, or whether you're going to join us, or whether you're already with us and are going to change your life over the next 6 to 8 months or years, I'm here for it and I love it and I'm so grateful. Thank you for showing up, and may God bless you. I love you. Thank you for being here. Hope to see you again. Thank you.
I hope this video gave you some insights, some hope, some different perspectives on autism symptoms and why we might think twice about dealing with those and healing the symptoms before understanding the message behind them. If you want to work with me or talk to me or get in contact with me, please download one of the guides below this video, or write me an email, or the details for how you can get connected to me is in the description below this video if you're watching on YouTube. or if you're watching via my blog at barefootautismwarriors.com, and I'll be happy to talk to you about what strategies we can come up with for you and your child and your healing.